Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Hope everyone had a great weekend. My name is Lee Arnold, and we are getting started with GoGuardian Teacher this morning. So, again, my name is Lee Arnold. I'm from the Ed Tech team. I'm going to introduce Kayla from GoGuardian in just a moment. A couple housekeeping rules. We do have the chat box over to the right. So if you have questions, feel free to ask throughout our session. If you see a little moderator wrench next to that person, they're moderating the chat. They're going to help us through and answer those questions as a team member from Ed Tech. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to our channel. If you're blown away by today's events, please feel free to share on Twitter at EdTech PBC. You can see our handle at the top right-hand corner. We do have a jam-packed day on our agenda. We've had Adobe already this morning. We're going to see GoGuardian later today. We've got Typing Club, Conmigo from Khan Academy, Canva, and don't forget BrainPop at the afternoon session. And if you'd like to see a full list of the agenda, please take a look at your portal and the EdTech training website. We can go there at the bottom. You can see the URL, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up Miss Kayla. And Kayla is so nice to see us from GoGuardian. So again, take it away, Kayla.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lee. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you're all having a great week so far. Welcome to your GoGuardian Teacher training session. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. As Lee mentioned, my name is Kayla. I'm one of the customer education specialists here at GoGuardian. Prior to working with GoGuardian, I was an elementary school teacher, and that is where I actually started using GoGuardian with my students. So I'm really excited to be on this side of things with you all today, getting to share the platform and getting you ready to use this with your students during your instructional day. So let's go ahead. We are going to dive right in. We've got a lot of content to cover today, and I want to make sure that you get all of the information that you need. So let's first take a look at our training agenda for our session this morning. I'm going to just start us off with a brief introduction to GoGuardian and give you a little bit of information about how it works on the back end of things. And then I'm going to be working out of my demo environment for the majority of our time together today. This is where I'm going to get to show you all of those great features and tools that you are going to have access to within GoGuardian Teacher. I'm also going to share some support resources with you during the end of our time together so you know where to find any additional support if needed. And we should have a couple of minutes at the end for some questions if you have any as well. All right, if you would like to take a moment here, I do have a resource document that I'd like to share with you. You can either scan the QR code on the screen, or there is a bit.ly link on this, the bottom there. That is a case-sensitive bit.ly link, so go ahead and take a moment to grab a copy of that document. It contains a lot of great resources there for you. There's links to various Help Center articles. You'll also find at the top of the document here, there is a how-to guide PDF, and that is a downloadable PDF. So if you are someone who loves step-by-step written instructions, that is going to be a great resource for you. As you start to get more comfortable with GoGuardian, you can always refer back to those resources as you need. So I'll give you just a moment there to scan that QR code or grab that bit.ly link if you need it, and we'll get moving here in just a moment. All right. Awesome. So let's go ahead here and we're going to keep on rolling through, and we are going to take a look at our objectives for this GoGuardian Teacher comprehensive session we have on the agenda for you this morning. So by the end of our session today, first and foremost, I want you to be able to identify all of the key features and functionalities of GoGuardian Teacher and really understand how you're able to use GoGuardian Teacher in all of your different classroom scenarios. I'm sure that we have a ton of teachers from a ton of different grade levels and subjects with us here today. So really think about how you're able to use this in your instructional practice with your students. And as always, I want you to be able to ask those informed questions about specific features, thinking about how those features are applicable to your unique teaching needs when you are with your students during your instructional time. All right, so let's go ahead and we are going to talk a little bit about how GoGuardian actually works on the back end, just for some basic understanding here of how this platform actually functions. So, GoGuardian is actually an extension-based program. And what this means is that these extensions are deployed to your students' user accounts. So, those students' school-issued email addresses, that is where these extensions are actually tied to. They're not installed on a student device, they're all at an extension level for the student account. So it's going to be really important that your students do log into their devices with their school credentials so that the GoGuardian extensions populate. If students are not logged in with their school credentials, those extensions are not going to populate for them. So that is one of the main takeaways here. Students must use their school logins. Now, for you all as teachers and staff, you are able to access GoGuardian Teacher from any browser, and all you're going to do is log in using your school credentials. So, really easy for you. You just go to any browser, go to teacher.goguardian.com, and you can log in with your school credentials there. And then once that's all set up, you're able to start your session and monitor your students' browsing activity. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that actually looks like for you and your students. I am going to be working out of my demo environment here today. I do just want to note that all of the students you're going to see in this demo environment are not real. These are just devices that are programmed to browse and go off task. So please, if you see anything on screen today, just note that these are not real students. We do take student privacy very seriously here at GoGuardian. Now, if you haven't logged into your GoGuardian Teacher account yet and you would like to follow along today, you are more than welcome to do that. Again, you can go to teacher.goguardian.com and log in with your credentials there. If you prefer to just follow along on my screen as I work through my demo environment, you can absolutely do that too. All right, so the first thing we are going to talk about today is actually setting up your classes in GoGuardian Teacher. So I'm here in my GoGuardian Teacher demo environment, and whenever you log into your teacher account, you are going to land on your teacher dashboard. So this is kind of like your home page here. And this is where you're going to find all of the classes. It's where you're going to find class settings and some other key things that you can configure here. Now, for you all, your district has actually set up your class creation through a clever integration. So this makes creating your classes pretty simple for you. It's just a couple of clicks that you're going to need to do to get yourself set up. So the first thing that you're going to do when you log into your demo account for the first time, you'll see on the left-hand side here, there is a pending tab. And you'll see a bright red number next to that pending tab. And that is letting you know how many classes are being synced over from Clever. So to get your classes set up, you're just going to click into this pending tab here. And then you're just going to start clicking accept on the classes that you need to make active. And so as soon as you click accept, that class is now going to move under the active tab here on the left-hand side. So now on my dashboard, I can see that I have this science class down on the bottom. It is now an active class, meaning I can now start sessions. And you'll see that there is a little Clever badge in the top left corner. So that is just letting me know that the student roster and the class title is being synced over from Clever. Now, because this sync is running and already set up by your district, you do not have to worry about updating rosters or adding students into classes. That is done automatically for you through a nightly sync between GoGuardian Teacher and Clever. So that is all you need to do to get your classes set up in GoGuardian Teacher. You'll just go to the Pending tab, click Accept, and then you will be good to go. All right. So I am going to go back into my environment here. And when we are looking at these classes that you have accepted and are now active, you're going to see that on each class card here, you have quite a few buttons and some options here before you even click the Start Class. So we do have a chat toggle on each class card. There is a chat feature within GoGuardian Teacher. This allows for communication between student and teacher only. Students will never have the ability to communicate with other students using the chat feature here in GoGuardian Teacher. Now, right under that chat toggle, you have a drop-down menu here, and this is where you can set a default runtime for each of your classes or sections. So if you know that your class runs for 60 minutes every time you teach it, you can set a default runtime here. There's also an option at the bottom of this menu for a custom end time. So if you are a self-contained teacher and you have the same group of students for an extended period of time, you can also set a custom end time for this class to stop. Now, before I click on Start Class, I do want to share a new feature with you in GoGuardian Teacher that was just rolled out about 2 weeks ago. We have an updated calendar tool to make scheduling your classes really easy, and it now supports rotational and block scheduling. So before we click Start here, on this left-hand toolbar, the navigation toolbar here, you'll see a calendar button. And so if I click on Calendar, this is going to allow me to schedule all of my classes. And this is really nice because if you schedule your classes to run here on the calendar, you don't even have to be logged into your teacher account for these to start. So it's almost become an automated process here for you, like a set it and forget it type of deal, where you can schedule this and then you don't have to worry about coming in and clicking start. It will start and stop automatically at the times you designate here. Now, I do want to mention that best practice with GoGuardian Teacher is to only monitor your students when they're with you during your instructional time. So it is best to schedule these classes for the times when students are actually going to be with you. So in the top right corner here, if I wanted to schedule a class or a session, I can click that blue Schedule a Session button. And then I'm going to choose the class that I want to schedule here. And I can set the start date and the end date for this class. And I can also set the start and end time as well. So again, if this is something or a class that's on a block schedule, or you are maybe teaching an after school or before school group, and there is a start and an end date to that, you can set that here. And then we can select the start time here as well. And then you can choose whether or not this scheduled session repeats. So you can have it repeat every Monday through Friday, or you can set it for a custom repeat rotation option there. So if I save this, I can now see that my study skills group here, my after school group, is scheduled from 3:30 to 4. And that is going to be scheduled for me throughout the dates that I have there set as the start and end date. So again, this is nice because it now supports that block scheduling, the rotational scheduling, and it makes everything automated for you. So if you do want to try that out and check out that calendaring tool, you can absolutely do that right on that navigation toolbar there on the left. All right, so I am going to go ahead here and start my class. I'm going to use my 5th period class here for demonstration purposes today. So I'm going to click Start. And as soon as you start that session, you are now in a live session. You are monitoring student browsing activity in your teacher session. Now, on the top here, of your teacher screen, you have your teacher control panel. And this is where you're going to find a lot of the buttons and the bells and whistles. And then down on the bottom are your student screens. And so this is where you're able to actually see student browsing activity. Now, in the top left corner here, we do have a sessions bar, and this allows you to run more than one class session at a time. So you'll see that I currently have 2 sessions running, and I have one scheduled to run a little bit later today. I can toggle between these sessions right up top. So if I am supporting maybe multiple students who are in different locations, or if I'm supporting another teacher, maybe covering for their class, I can toggle between my classes right up top there to see different student browsing activity. Now, if we move down a little bit underneath this blue bar on the top of the screen here, we do have 2 different drop-down menus, and this is just going to allow you to sort your students. So I have my tile size option where I can zoom in those student tiles. And I also have a sort by menu here as well. And this is going to allow me to choose how I'm sorting my students on this screen below. There is a custom sort option here. And this is nice because it allows you to click the top left corner of the student tile and drag those student screens wherever you would like them to be on your teacher screen here. So if you wanted to make this mirror your seating arrangements, you can custom sort your students there. Now, up in the top right corner, you do have just some additional controls there. You can see how much time is remaining. You can also update the time if you know your session is running a little bit over today, or maybe you're on an adjusted schedule and your class is going to end at a different time. You can always do that while the session is running. Now, if we go back down here, I am going to look at this student here, Ryan, in the top left corner. When we are looking at a student's screen, the image that you see on the student's screen is the student's active tab. So this is what the student is currently on in their browser. You'll see the title of that website right below the image, and then there is a URL for that website there as well. Now, right below that URL, there is another toolbar at the bottom of the student's screen, and that toolbar is often going to have little icons attached to it. And those little icons represent all of the other tabs that your students have open in their browser at this time. And I can hover over each of these tabs here, each of these icons, to see exactly what websites students have open in their browser. So it looks like Ryan's on YouTube here, and maybe right now they don't need to be on YouTube. So I can hover over this icon and I can force close this tab and close that out of the student's browser. Now, in a couple of minutes, I'll show you how you can lock students into what we call focus mode so they cannot get back to the websites that you do close out for them. So that is coming up shortly. Now, also on the student tile here, this top toolbar, right next to the student name, we see a little chat bubble here. And that chat bubble right now is crossed out. So I started my session with the chat turned off. So we can see that on the chat bubble. We can also see right above the blue toolbar here, the chat toggle is still turned off. So the teacher has to turn the chat on for students to be able to communicate with the teacher, and the chat has to be on for the teacher to initiate chat with a student. So until I slide this toggle over and turn it on, no one can chat with me. But now that it is on, that chat bubble appears this navy blue color on each student's screen. And then for you as the teacher, once you turn on that chat, in the very bottom right corner of your screen, you're going to see a little chat bubble widget down there. And that little chat bubble is going to give you a list view of all of the students who are in your class. And now from this list, I can select a specific student here by clicking on their name and opening up this chat box. And now I can send a message to the student, maybe do a quick check-in with Ryan here today. And all of these chats do get saved. They are all saved in a chat log. So if you ever needed to refer back to a conversation that you had with a student, you can absolutely do that. Also on the chat window here in the top right corner, when you have an individual student's window open, there is another toggle here for you as well. This allows you to turn that chat on or off at an individual level for each student. So maybe you want to provide this support for just a couple of students in your class today, and not everyone needs to be able to chat with you. You can turn that off. And now if I look at my screen view here, I can see that Ryan's chat bubble is crossed out, but everyone else still has access to chat. So you can decide at an individual level who does have access to that feature. All right, I'm going to close out that chat list there. So those are some of the basic controls there in GoGuardian Teacher, just the beginning pieces here of when you first start your session. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper here, and we're going to shift our focus to this command toolbar that runs across the top of the screen, this blue bar here. So the commands in GoGuardian Teacher are those direct actions that you're able to take on student browsing activity. There's a couple of different ways that you can issue these commands. I'm going to show you how to do this first from this blue toolbar, and then I'll show you how you can also do this from what we call the enlarged screen view. So the first command we have on our toolbar here is this make announcement command. So this is another great way to communicate with your students. You do have the option to chat, and again, the chat is just individual between you and a student. But if you wanted to communicate a message to your entire class at the same time, Make Announcement is a really great tool to use. Make Announcement allows you to broadcast a message to student devices all at the same time. You'll see that once I click that Make Announcement button, I get this window that pops up here, and I can select the specific students I want to send this announcement to. I also have an option to select all of my students if I wanted to send this to everyone at the same time. Maybe I want to let my students know how much time is remaining before our session ends today. Or maybe you want to communicate out some assignment instructions to everyone at once. And you can also add emojis in here because why not? So when you make an announcement, it is going to look like this on the student device here. It will broadcast across the student's entire device, and the student cannot get rid of this announcement until they click got it. So it is not going to clear off of the student's screen until they acknowledge that they did see your announcement. Now, once the student does click got it, that announcement will disappear and the student can resume working. All of the announcements also get saved in the chat log. So if you did send something like assignment instructions to your student and they needed to refer back to those written instructions, they could always pull open that chat on their device to reread your announcement. Now, next to the Make Announcement button here on the blue command toolbar, we have an Open Tab command. This is one of my favorites here. This is a way for you to send websites to your students and make those websites their active tab. So maybe it is time for an assessment, or you're getting ready to do an in-class assignment and everyone needs to be on the same site. You can select all of your students here. And then when I click next, it pulls me into the Open Tab window. And I have a search bar here where I can copy and paste in the URL, or I can type it in if I know my URL off the top of my head. And at the bottom of this list here, this will start to populate for you as you use this command more often with your students. So it becomes almost like a quick pick list for you of those websites you're using most often with your class. So I have my URL here. I am going to click this green Open Tab button on the right. And what we're going to see is that all of the students I selected are now going to be redirected to that website. So this is a really great way to cut down on transition time and make sure that your students are all headed to the right site, and you don't have to worry about them spelling any URLs correctly or worry about those transition times, because you can just click Open Tab and send them to where they need to be. Now, next to Open Tab, we have the Lock Unlock option here. This is going to allow you to temporarily disable student browsing activity. So maybe it is time for some more direct instruction and you want students' focus back on you and off of those devices. You're able to select the students, or again, you can select everyone. And I'm going to send these students here a message. Maybe I want them to come check in with me, and I am going to lock their devices. So now what I see as the teacher is a message on each of the screens here that says you have locked the student's device. And what the student sees is a message across their entire browser that says browsing disabled. And they also see the little message that I sent to them that says come check in, please. Now, until I unlock these devices, the students cannot open any additional tabs or continue browsing. The browser is locked until I unlock it. I can unlock it by clicking the button on each student's screen, or I can go right back up to that blue command toolbar here, and I can also unlock in bulk here as well. And I'm just going to unlock all of those students that I locked. Now, once I unlock those devices, students pick up right where they left off. Nothing's been closed out. They have not lost any progress at all. They can resume browsing and working, and I can resume monitoring their activity there. All right. So one more command we're going to talk about here on this blue toolbar is exclude from session. And this is a really important command when it comes to best practice with GoGuardian Teacher and only monitoring students when they're with you during your instructional time. So let's say that you have a group of students in this class who are going to be pulled out for some instructional support. They're going to be working with another instructional support teacher for the next 30 minutes or so in another location. So I'm not going to have those students with me during my instructional time. I am going to exclude those students from my session. And so once I've selected the students I need to exclude, I will just click that exclude students button down in the bottom right corner. And it looks like the students have disappeared from my class here. They've moved from where they were initially, but all that has happened is they have just moved down to the bottom of my screen, and I am no longer monitoring their activity at this time because they are excluded. Now, that instructional support teacher who is working with those students, they have a GoGuardian Teacher session running. They can see what those students are doing, and they're able to monitor browsing. And one of the reasons that this is really important, especially for a scenario like that where you may have a student going to work with another teacher, best to exclude them when they're not with you so you do not have two teachers creating a conflicting environment for the student, opening and closing different websites for them. And so just always exclude them when they're not with you. Whenever the students come back to you, all you have to do is click re-include student on their little screen there. They'll pop right back up to their initial place on your screen. And again, nothing has been closed out. They haven't lost any of their progress or anything like that. They can pick up right where they left off. And now I can resume monitoring their activity. So quite a few commands up here. We took a look at the first four: the make announcement, open tab, lock, unlock, and exclude. We'll come back to these other commands in just a couple of minutes here. Now, another way that you are able to issue student browsing or issue commands to student browsing activity is by clicking into the center of a student's screen and opening up what we call the enlarged screen view. So right now I am just looking at Ryan's browsing activity here, and you'll see that on the bottom, I have another command toolbar, and it has a lot of those same commands: make announcement, exclude student, open tab, lock device. These all function exactly the same as they do from that blue command toolbar up top. The major difference here is that when you issue these commands from the enlarged screen view, they're going to only impact this one individual student here. Now you will see in the enlarged screen view, you do get some additional commands on this bottom toolbar here as well. The screenshot tool down at the bottom here can only be used in this enlarged screen view, and it can only be used on one student at a time. So this is not something that you can do in bulk. What that screenshot tool does is it takes a screen grab of the student's active tab. So if you wanted to document any work or maybe save something that you saw on the student screen, you can always grab a screenshot and those get saved into the reports in GoGuardian. Now, one more command that you'll have here is annotate. This is specific to students who are using Chromebook devices. So if you do have any students on Chromebooks, you'll see this option here. This is just a way for you to visually prompt students where they need to click. So maybe I noticed that Ryan here has been on this login screen for quite some time. I'm going to go ahead and choose my pointer color and size. And then I'll just highlight on the student's screen where they need to click. It will drop a little annotate circle there. Maybe I send the student a quick chat over on the right that says, hey, click on that yellow circle to start typing. That annotation will disappear on its own for both you and the student after about 10 seconds. So this is another way for you to issue those commands in the enlarged screen view here by clicking into a student's screen and using this toolbar down at the bottom. Now, there is another new feature in GoGuardian Teacher for this back to school season that I do want to share with you because it is a great one. It is here in this enlarged screen view as well. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have our student activity tab. This is just showing us all of the tabs that the students have open in their browser. We have a new feature called focus mode, and this is really neat because it allows you as the teacher to decide which tab is the student's active tab. So let's say right now, I notice Ryan has been on this website for quite some time, but this isn't the website that we need to be on right now. We actually need to be on our assessment platform. And I can see that Ryan has our assessment platform open in another tab in their browser. So rather than me having to open the tab for the student, I can just come over to the student activity tab here, and I can find that website and click the actions button. On that actions menu, I have the choice to make this the active tab. So that would push this up to the active tab, but I also have an option to make it the active tab and lock the student into focus mode. And so what that does is it pushes this website to be the student's active one. And when focus mode is turned on, it makes it the only tab that is visible to the student. I actually have this student's device here with me right now in person. And I am clicking new tab and I am not able to because my teacher has me in focus mode. So focus mode is another great way to help limit those distractions and keep students where they need to be. The other tabs in the background do not get closed out for the student. They just become invisible in a sense that they're still there, but they are just not visible to the student until you come in and you turn off focus mode. So that's one option that you have there for creating a more structured browsing environment for students, helping to eliminate some of those distractions. Now, if you have heard of GoGuardian Teacher at all, or if you've dabbled with it at any point, you may be familiar with another feature we have here called Scenes. So Scenes is a way for you to really customize the browsing environment for your students and apply a specific browsing environment to a group of students or to your entire class. So let's take a look at Scenes because I think we have some questions about that coming in as well. So let's go ahead to the navigation toolbar on the left-hand side here. And we're going to click into the Scenes area. Now, there are two different types of scenes that you're able to create in GoGuardian Teacher. We have an allowed website list option. This is a very restrictive environment. You are only allowing your students access to very specific websites. So this is often used for like testing time. Now we also have a blocked website list option, and this allows students a little bit more flexibility. They can browse anything that is allowed by your district, but you as the teacher can then go in and block certain things. So let's say, we'll just use YouTube for an example. Say your district is allowing YouTube, but maybe there is a certain part of your instructional day where you do not want students on YouTube. Maybe they're working on some research. So you don't really want to create a restrictive environment, but you want to minimize those distractions. So maybe you use a blocked list and block just YouTube or some of those like educational gaming websites. So you do have a couple of different options here, really kind of dependent on where you're at in your instructional day and what type of environment that your students need to be in. I am going to create an allowed website list here so you can see what this looks like to create a list. And then I'll turn on this allowed list in my demo environment so you can see how that actually impacts student activity when you are using scenes. So the first step to creating either type of list here is to click on Create List. And you will need to name each of the lists you're creating. So we'll say this is my math testing scene. And you can add in a description here if you'd like. And you can also color code all of your scenes as well. And now in the top right corner, I need to be sure to click Next. And now step 2 is where I'm actually going to come to start creating this list. So I'm creating a testing environment. So I need to think about what websites do my students need access to when they're taking this test. I can do a keyword search in this little search bar here, or again, I can copy and paste URLs in here as well. And it's going to pull a list of websites here for me that are either the exact website I'm looking for or a website that is similar to the keyword search that I've entered. And here are the websites I need here. So I'm going to go ahead and I've clicked Add. And now on the right-hand side here, this is actually the list I'm giving my students access to. So this is pretty restrictive. If I leave this as it is, these are the only 2 websites my students will be able to access when I turn this scene on. And now because it is a testing environment, maybe I want these websites to also auto open for students as well. So they force open as soon as I turn the scene on. So let's start there, and we'll turn this on so we can see what this looks like. Again, this is a really restrictive environment. I'm only allowing 2 websites, and I am going to force open these websites here as well. Whenever you create a scene, be sure you do click Save up in the top right so it does get saved to your list here. Any scene that you create will be displayed here in the scenes area. They are here until you come back in and delete them. You can also share the scenes that you're creating by clicking the 3-dot menu and sharing by clicking Share. You can then share those with anyone in your organization. So if another teacher has created a really great testing environment scene and you want to use it as well, rather than you having to recreate it from scratch, you can just ask them to share it with you. So nice collaborative tool there as well. Let me extend my time here. And let's take a look at turning on a scene. So here's my class, and this is a scenario. Again, we're doing math testing here. Everyone needs to be in the same place at the same time. So one way that you can turn on a scene is up in the top right corner. There is a No Scene Applied drop-down menu here. And if I click that drop-down menu, I'll see a list of all of those scenes I've created. And now I can just click on the one that I want to turn on. And so now we're going to see my students be redirected to that website. And we're going to see a lot of those other websites get blocked. So down on the bottom toolbar, there are a lot of little blocked icons popping up. That doesn't necessarily mean the website is inappropriate. It just means it is not supported by your scene. Now, it looks like there may have been an error here on my part, and I may have forgotten to add one of the links for the assessment platform that my students need. And I can see that my students here are being blocked by a link in the assessment platform. So what I can do here, rather than going back to the scenes area, editing, saving, I can just do this on the fly. So I'm going to view the student's screen here. I can see that they're getting a blocked message. And so what I need to do is where it says active tab, this website that's being blocked, that my students actually need access to, I'll just click the actions button here, and I'm going to unblock the site. And what this does is it pulls that URL for me, and I can update the scene. And so now that website has been added to my scene permanently for all of my students. So now no one else is going to be blocked by that website. I can edit my scenes on the fly while they're turned on, while my students are working. So if you ever forget to add a website, not a big deal. You can always fix it while your students are actually in the scene in that type of environment there. So that's one way that you're able to turn on a scene for your students. Again, the drop-down menu in the top right is a great way to do that if everyone needs to be in the same type of environment. But let's say maybe you have a group of students who missed the testing window yesterday and they need to be in that makeup testing window today. So not all of your students need to be in a math testing scene, maybe just 2 or 3 of them. So another way that I can apply a scene is from this blue command toolbar up top here. We have that apply a scene button. And when I click that, it allows me to choose the students I want to apply a scene to. So I am just going to choose these 3 students. And down on the bottom left, I'll choose the scene I want to put them in. And I'll apply that. And so now what that does is it actually initiates the student groups feature in GoGuardian Teacher, which is a standalone feature as well. But what this does is that I can now see that group A here is in the math testing scene. It put those 3 students in that testing scene. And then it moved the rest of my class into group B, and group B has no scene applied. But I could apply another scene to this group if I wanted to. So if they were maybe in an independent work environment and they needed access to different websites, applying a scene from that blue command toolbar allows you to group the students and apply different browsing environments to those groups of students. Now, nothing shows up for the students letting them know they've been added to a group. Like they don't see a message that says, hey, you've been added to group A. This is just for the teacher's view only to be able to apply different scenes and issue commands at the group level. Now, I did mention that student groups is its own standalone feature as well. So in the top right corner under the blue command toolbar, there is a student group dropdown, and you can explore this. You can create your own custom groups. You can have as few as 1 student in a group. So if you needed maybe 1 student to be in a more structured browsing environment and the rest of your class was working on something else, you could set up custom groups as well. So a lot of options there to be able to differentiate those browsing environments for students based on where they're at during your instructional day. All right, so that is the scenes/student groups feature. You can use scenes for all of your class at once, or you can turn on student groups and apply multiple scenes to different groups of students there. Now, a couple of other things that I do want to show you here that you have access to in GoGuardian Teacher. For the majority of our time so far, we've been in our screens view here, this tab up in the top left. So we're seeing each student as a screen. But you also have a timeline view here as well. This is just another way for you to monitor student browsing activity. You'll see that the timeline is live. It's moving across my screen, and it is timestamped by the minute up top. Each one of the bars on the timeline represents a different website the student was browsing. And this is nice because you can click onto that bar to see exactly how long the student was on that website and all of the other tabs that were open at that time as well. The timeline also allows you to click and drag across the entirety of the session. So if you stepped out of the room, maybe you had a meeting and you wanted to see what your students were doing, you could always move this timeline back and review student browsing here as well. Now, another way that you're able to view student browsing activity is through historical information. I mentioned at the beginning of our time here that the chat logs get saved and you can always pull those chat logs if needed. You can also pull past session information if needed as well. So to do that, you're just going to go back to your dashboard. And there is a settings gear menu for each class or each section that you have set up here. And if you click on that settings gear menu, the first option here says view sessions. And this is where you can come to see a list of all of your current and past sessions. It is also where you can come to pull those chat logs if you need to. But you can click on a date from the past to review student browsing activity. So maybe I need to pull something from Monday, September 30th. I need to review some browsing. I can just click on that date and it pulls me into our historical timeline view. So it looks really similar to where we just were. The major difference here is the timeline's not moving because it's from September 30th. But I can still click and drag across this entire timeline here and click onto those bars to see what students were browsing. I also have a screenshot tab here to review any past screenshots that were taken. And I do have a command log where I can look at all of the commands that were issued during the session as well. So again, this historical session information is a nice way to get like a high level overview of your entire class's browsing activity for a past session if you ever need to pull that. You can also access the chat there as well. Now, another option you have for browsing data, if you are needing more detailed browsing data, you will see on the navigation toolbar on the left there is a student reports button. And that allows you to run individual student browsing reports for a specific student for a specific class. So I will show you what this looks like here. You can run one of these reports for up to 30 days at a time, and you do have access to data from the past 6 months available. So once this report generates, we will see the students' top 5. So we're seeing the top 5 websites, documents, and Google searches for this date range here. So October 1st to October 14th for the 5th period class. We can also see the amount of time the student spent on each of the top 5. You'll also get an intervention report here. So this is showing you how many times the teacher needed to intervene on the student's browsing activity while those sessions were running. And then you have screenshots here as well. So this is going to give you a date and time stamp screenshot specific to this student. And then at the very bottom is a detailed browsing history. This is a list of every website, document, or search that the student browsed during your date range. You'll see the date and time stamp, the website title, and the URL here as well. You can also copy URLs right from this report. So if you wanted to use this to help you build out scenes, you could copy URLs right from these student reports and build those browsing environments based on student browsing activity. Now, this report is one that you can share. Up in the top right corner of this report, you will see an email report button. The recipient does not need to have a GoGuardian Teacher account. So you can share this with a student's guardian, an administrator, a school counselor, whoever may need this data. You can select the portions of the report you'd like to share and email that to them. Each recipient will get their own email with their own PDF version of this report attached. This is something that I personally used to use during conference and report card time when we were talking about digital citizenship and responsible internet browsing. This was a really excellent data point to have to be able to refer back to that. So a lot of data here available for you, a lot of different ways to review student activity. Now, before we start wrapping up our time together here, I do just want to show you that on that navigation toolbar, right under the student report button, there is a help button here. This is where you can find the GoGuardian Teacher Help Center. So if you're looking for any additional information or if you wanted to dive into some additional training on your own, you have access to that here right within the GoGuardian Teacher interface. And then in the very bottom right corner of your screen, you'll also see a help button here as well. This one's a bit different. This is going to connect you directly to our technical support team here at GoGuardian. So if you ever run into any technical issues or if you have a question about the product and you're not sure where to find the answer, please feel free to reach out to our tech support team. They're great, they're pretty speedy, and they usually resolve those cases pretty quickly. So just know that that is a resource that is there for you right within your teacher platform there. All right. So that about wraps up what I have to share with you all here, content wise for the features in GoGuardian Teacher. I do want to open it up for any questions that we may have, anything that may have come through that I didn't see in the chat, or if there's anything that we need to take a look at that maybe we didn't get a chance to dive into.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. We appreciate you and giving us all this great information on GoGuardian. Like Kayla said, if you do have questions coming in, please, again, we've been answering many of those in the chat, but if you would like to ask some more while we have Kayla on attendance here, that would be most helpful. While those questions are coming up, I am going to go over some other fun information. So, if you have not signed in with e-learning, we would love for you to be able to get points for this session. So, by the end of today, if you'd still like to get points, please go onto ELM to sign up, or you can go on our EdTech training website and you can see on the left-hand side the e-learning courses and go down to GoGuardian. It is listed there. Those implementation to get the points are due December 17th. So again, we'd love to get those in for you. We still do have plenty of the day left. We're still in the morning. So we got Conmigo coming up, Typing Club, Canva, and Brain Pop. Again, we're very excited. If you've liked and subscribed to our channel, they're all going to be featured there. Please stay in touch with us. We have a lot of great offerings coming up this year. So please join our mailing list. You can follow us on Twitter and always check back with our training website as we do post as much as possible. If you don't already know, 24th annual tech conference is coming up February 24th at the new high school. We are open to presentations currently. So if you have a really cool tech tool that you're using in your classroom and you want to share it out, please don't hesitate to submit a proposal. We would love to see you out there. And from the entire ed tech team, we appreciate you being on this morning, taking the time to be here with us. And again, we hope you had a great day and we hope that you will sign up for another session and we'll see you soon. Thank you again, Kayla. We appreciate you. No questions. Seems like everyone got a lot of information today.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I will send some additional resources your way that you can share out with your staff.
Perfect. All right, guys. We hope to see you soon.